Before we begin, if you have ever felt like your body has turned against you, if you've ever looked in the mirror and wondered why you don't feel like yourself anymore, I want you to know something. I don't believe that your body is your enemy. I think it's trying to have a conversation with you. The question is, do we know how to listen? Have you ever noticed how quickly we label our bodies as broken? My metabolism is broken. My hormones are broken. My immune system is broken. My body just hates me. I've heard those words countless times over the years, and if I'm being honest, I know I've said them myself sometimes. Because when you're exhausted all the time, when your joints ache, when your stomach never seems happy, and when your joints feel just stabbing, and your mind feels foggy, and when you're gaining weight, even though you've been trying everything to keep it down or get it off, or when you've been diagnosed with something that changes your life, it's easy to feel like your body has betrayed you. I understand that feeling. When I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in my early 20s, I remember sitting in a neurologist's office with my baby daughter after waiting for hours to be seen. My mom was there with me because my husband was working. The MRI showed lesions on my brain and upper spine. And the doctor explained that because of what she saw, I should prepare for future disability. Very significant disability. And honestly, very soon. I walked out of that office believing that my body had declared war on me. Maybe you've never been diagnosed with MS. Maybe your struggle looks completely different, but I think many of us have asked this same question. Why is my body doing this to me? Today, I want to offer you a different question. What if your body has been trying to tell you something all along? Not because every symptom has one simple answer, and it's not because every illness can be reversed. Not because there's one diet, one supplement, or one lifestyle change that fixes everything, but because biology has a language. And whether we realize it or not, our bodies are speaking that language every single day. Think about this. Your body doesn't wake up in the morning and decide, I'm just gonna make you tired today. No, I'm gonna give you brain fog today. Ooh, I'm gonna make you gain 20 pounds this holiday season. Yeah. No, that's not how biology works. Your body is constantly collecting information. Every bite of food, every hour of sleep, every stressful conversation, every walk outside or hours spent sitting on the couch, every sunrise, every late night snack, every relationship, every thought that keeps you awake, every one of those experiences become information, and your body responds. That's one of the most incredible things about being alive. The problem is that sometimes the environment we're creating, it sends mixed signals. Imagine trying to have a conversation with someone where every other sentence contradicts the last one. One moment, you're told to speed up, and then the next you're told to slow down. 1 minute, you're told food is coming, and the next minute you're told food is scarce. One day you're resting, the next day, no time for sleep at all. 4 hours, maybe, max. Your body doesn't get confused because it's unintelligent. It gets confused because the information it's receiving is so inconsistent. One of my favorite ways to think about this is to imagine your body as the most advanced communication system ever created. When you're thirsty, that's a message. When you're tired, that's a message. When you're hungry, that's a message. Pain, inflammation, brain fog, low energy, even cravings. They're all forms of communication. Now, before we go any further, I want to be careful here. Not every symptom has the same cause. Fatigue can come from poor sleep, anemia, thyroid disease, depression, chronic infection, autoimmune disease, medications, or many other conditions. Pain can have dozens of different explanations. That's exactly why it's important not to ignore persistent or concerning symptoms and to work with a healthcare professional when something doesn't seem right. But here's what I think we've forgotten. Symptoms are often signals before they're enemies. Instead of asking, how do I silence this? Maybe we should first ask, what is my body trying to tell me? Because sometimes the signal itself is valuable. I think that's one of the biggest shifts that changed in my own life. For years, I wanted symptoms to just disappear. I wanted to feel normal again. I wanted my body to stop interrupting my plans. But eventually, I stopped seeing my body as something that needed to be defeated, and I started to get curious. Like, why am I so tired today? Why do I feel amazing after some meals and terrible after others? Why does stress affect me so much? Why does sleep matter more than I used to think that it did? Why do certain habits seem to help while others leave me feeling worse? Curiosity, it really changed a lot for me because curiosity leads to understanding, and understanding leads to better decisions. Not perfect decisions, but better ones. Most people think health begins when they can find the perfect answer. I don't. I think health often begins when we start asking better questions. Why is my body responding this way? What information am I giving it every single day? Because your body is listening every moment. Imagine for a moment that someone handed you a plant. The leaves are turning yellow. It begins to wilt and the edges are brown. Would your first instinct be to grab a bottle of green spray paint? Of course not. You wouldn't paint the leaves. You'd ask questions. Is it getting enough water? Is it getting too much water? Does it need more sunlight? Is the soil healthy? Are the roots damaged? The leaves aren't the problem. The leaves are telling you something about the problem. And our bodies often work the same way. Yet somewhere along the way, many of us learned to fear every signal our body sends. We become frustrated by hunger, annoyed by fatigue, embarrassed by weight gain, angry about inflammation, and ashamed of cravings. We spend so much time trying to silence the messages that we rarely stop long enough to understand what they're saying. Now, I want to pause here because this is important. I'm not suggesting that every symptom should simply be listened to instead of treated. Sometimes symptoms are signs of serious medical conditions that need prompt diagnosis and treatment. Chest pain, sudden weakness, unexplained bleeding, severe abdominal pain, new neurological symptoms, those are not things to ignore while we're trying another diet or another fast. Our bodies deserve both curiosity and wisdom. But I also think many of us become disconnected from the quieter messages, the ones that show up months or years, if we're being honest, before disease is ever diagnosed. Maybe your energy slowly disappeared. Maybe your sleep just became lighter, like it was harder to get a good night. Maybe your clothes slowly became a little tighter, and maybe you started depending on caffeine just to feel halfway awake. Maybe your mind became foggy, and maybe you couldn't remember names as easily. Maybe you stopped feeling excited about life. Each one of those changes can have many different explanations, but together they tell a story. The question is whether we're willing to read it. One of the most fascinating things that I've learned while studying nutrition and being a health coach is that your body is incredibly intelligent. Every second, millions of chemical interactions and reactions are taking place inside of you. Your heart is beating without you thinking about it. Your lungs are exchanging oxygen, your liver is processing nutrients, your kidneys are filtering waste. Your immune system is constantly surveying for viruses, bacteria, and damaged cells. Hormones are carrying messages from one part of your body to another. Your nervous system is coordinating everything faster than the fastest computer we have ever built. It's extraordinary. It really is. It's so amazing. And all of it is responding to information you're giving it. Think about that word for a moment, information. When most people hear the word nutrition, they think calories. I don't. I think information. Food isn't just fuel. Food tells your body what kind of world you're living in. A meal rich in protein, fiber, healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals. It sends one kind of message. A diet that's constantly high in ultra-processed foods and low in nutrient density, it sends another message. Neither meal is going to change your life overnight. Sometimes fast food is the only option. I get it. I do it too. I do. But thousands of meals over thousands of days become a conversation. The same is true for sleep. One bad night's sleep is probably not going to define your health, but months of poor sleep, your body notices. Chronic stress, your body notices. Never moving your muscles, your body notices. Never allowing periods without eating, your body notices. Living under bright lights until midnight, your body notices. Living disconnected from nature, your body notices. Your body is always paying attention. It's stuck with you. It has nowhere else to go. It cannot get away from you. It's paying attention, even if you aren't. One of the reasons I named this series The Fasting Project isn't because I believe fasting is the answer to everything. It isn't. Fasting is one conversation, one tool, one signal among many. What fascinates me is what happens when we intentionally change the information our bodies receive. For most of human history, people didn't eat from the moment they woke up until the moment they went to bed. They just didn't. There were natural rhythms, times of eating, times of rest, times of activity, and times of stillness. The body adapted to those rhythms over thousands of generations. Today, many of us live in a completely different environment. Food is available for most of us, almost everywhere, almost all the time, in some form. Many of us spend more time sitting than moving. Artificial light extends our days late into the night. Stress follows us in our pockets. Yeah, I'm not joking. In our pockets, through constant notifications. Our biology is ancient. Our environment is brand new. That doesn't mean that modern life is bad. It simply means our bodies are constantly adapting to conditions they were never exposed to on this scale before. I think that's worth paying attention to, because if our environment has changed, it makes sense to ask whether some of our daily habits should change too. Not out of fear, not out of guilt, but out of respect for the incredible body that we've been given by a God that loves us. and has called us to fast. Okay, so here's something I wish someone had told me 20 years ago. Healing isn't usually a dramatic moment. It's a direction. It's thousands of small conversations that slowly begin saying the same thing again and again. When you choose nourishing food, you're speaking to your body. When you finally prioritize sleep, you're speaking to your body. When you step outside into the morning sunlight, you're speaking to your body. When you take a walk after dinner, you're speaking to your body. Let's see. Oh, when you create intentional periods without eating, you're speaking to your body. Little by little, the conversation begins to change. And over time, sometimes your body responds in a way that surprises you. Not because it's magic, but because biology has always been listening. Have you ever watched a really good orchestra perform? There might be 100 different instruments on stage. Violins, cellos, trumpets, flutes, percussion. Every instrument has a different job. But think about it. Every musician is reading a different line of music, but they're following the same conductor. When they're working together, the result is beautiful. When they're not, you hear it immediately. Your body is remarkably similar. Your hormones aren't working independently. Your immune system isn't working independently, and your digestive system isn't working independently. Your brain and your metabolism, everything, they're constantly communicating with one another. That's why one small change in one area can sometimes create a ripple effect throughout the entire body. Improve your sleep, and you may notice your cravings begin to change. Reduce chronic stress, and your digestion may improve. Build more muscle, and your blood sugar regulation may improve. Improve your nutrition, and your energy often changes. You've experienced this, I'm sure. Introduce appropriate periods of fasting, and your body begins adapting in ways researchers are still working to fully understand. But everything is connected. That's why I get concerned whenever I do hear someone say, just take this one supplement, or just follow this one diet forever, or this one thing fixes everything. Real life, it's just rarely that simple. Our bodies are wonderfully complex, and honestly, I think that's good news, because if there isn't just one thing making you feel the way you do, there usually isn't just one thing standing between you, like where you are today, and feeling better tomorrow. Progress often comes from small changes pointing in the same direction. So one of my favorite analogies is this. Imagine your body is like a home. Every decision you make is another person knocking on the front door. Breakfast knocks. No, oh, sorry. No, that was me. I'm sorry. My dog is right behind me. I didn't know that was going to trigger her. It's okay. It's okay. It's just me. Shh, it's okay. I'm not going to do that again, sorry. But breakfast knocks, and then stress knocks, and then sleep knocks, and then exercise knocks. Scrolling your phone until midnight knocks. Let's see, fresh air, that's a knock. Fasting or processed food, especially in excess, that's lots of knocks. Protein is a knock. Loneliness is a knock. Community, the opposite of that. Let's think. Prayer or spending time in nature, connecting with the earth, doing some grounding. Those are all knocks. Every one of them is saying, we have information for you. Now imagine opening your front door thousands of times every single day. Eventually, your home begins reflecting whoever you've been inviting inside. I think our biology works much the same way. Our habits slowly become our environment, and our environment slowly shapes our biology. And our biology eventually becomes our experience. What is life? One of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last 20 years is that our bodies are constantly adapting, not because they're trying to hurt us, because they're trying to keep us alive. Think about that. If you're under chronic stress, your body adapts. And if you're constantly only getting like 5 hours of sleep each night, your body's adapting. If you're eating every couple of hours, your body adapts. And if you're gonna sit all day long, your body, it's gotta adapt. But if you're lifting a lot of weights, or even just some, your body's gonna adapt. I think, early morning walks, nourishing yourself well. Your body is always learning from yesterday to prepare for tomorrow. And that's what adaptation is. The question isn't whether your body is adapting. The question is, what is it adapting to? This is one of the reasons I became so passionate about fasting. Not because I believe everyone should fast exactly the same way. Not because fasting is appropriate for every person or every medical condition. And certainly not because it's a cure for every disease. It's not. I became fascinated by fasting because it changes the conversation. It interrupts the constant stream of information many of us have been sending our bodies for years. Instead of saying, food is coming, food is coming, food is coming, hour after hour after hour, fasting introduces a different message. It's okay to rest for a little while. That simple shift affects much more than hunger. It influences metabolic pathways, hormone regulation, and how the body manages energy. Researchers are continuing to study so many of these effects, and while there's so much still to learn, it is so exciting. It is an amazing area of discovery and science because there's just so much that they're learning about fasting and the benefit and the blessing it is to the body, the mind, the soul. That's why I wrote an entire book, The Fasting Project. You'll find it on Amazon. I'll put it in the description below if you're interested. But I did it not because we just needed another book about fasting. There's plenty of those. I wanted to write a book that helps people understand why fasting works, where the evidence is strong, where it's still emerging, and how it fits into a bigger picture of restoring health. Because understanding always lasts longer than just following simple instructions. If you've ever wondered why I keep coming back to this idea, that's why. And if you'd like to go much deeper, you can, find more episodes here on YouTube, but you can also find on my website additional resources. YouAreWorthItHealth.com, the letter U, the letter R, worthithealth.com. My hope is that you'll find some practical, encouraging help that makes sense of what your body is trying to tell you. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat quietly, without your phone, without music, no podcast, no snack, you're not eating, you're not even drinking? I guess maybe you could have some water. I always have water nearby. I'm a little bit ridiculous about having my water. You could ask anyone that knows me probably. But I love water. Point is, no distractions, okay? When was it? No rushing to be through the moment. Just noticed how you felt. You probably can't think of when you did unless you're a regular meditator. And if you are, kudos to you, that's awesome. But I don't think most of us do that anymore. We've become experts at distracting ourselves. If we're tired, we reach for some caffeine. And if we're anxious, we're gonna scroll or watch something. Maybe read something because we're feeling like we want to be a little more. But we distract ourselves. And if we're bored, we snack, or if we're overwhelmed, we binge another show or a snack, right? Like Between snacking and screens, we're all a little bit in trouble. And I'm not saying those things make anyone a bad person. I've done all of them. I do. Honestly, I just do. What I'm saying is sometimes the noise becomes so loud that we can't even hear our own body anymore. And I wonder how many whispers it took before it became a scream. Simply because the whispers, they just weren't noticed when they were still whispers. Maybe your body whispered through low energy. It whispered through poor sleep. It whispered through an increasing waist size. It whispered through constant cravings. It whispered through brain fog and through digestion that never felt quite right. Again, those symptoms can have many different causes, and persistent changes deserve thoughtful medical evaluation. But they also invite curiosity. Instead of asking, how quickly can I make this go away? What if we first asked, what changed? When did this begin? What patterns did I notice? Because sometimes the answers aren't hidden in a laboratory. Sometimes they're hidden in the rhythm of our everyday lives. Sometimes, once you start paying attention, you begin realizing something beautiful. Your body has been trying to help you all along. One of the greatest misconceptions in modern health is that healing begins with doing more supplements, more medications, more exercise, more willpower, more discipline, more information. Sometimes it does, but sometimes healing begins by creating space. Space for your body to catch up, space for your mind to slow down, space for inflammation to settle, space for your nervous system to remember what safety feels like, space for improving relationships, space for gratitude, space for sleep, space for God. That idea changed my life because for years I believed I needed to fight my body to win, fight my diagnosis, fight my symptoms, fight my cravings, fight my fatigue, and everything felt like a battle. But somewhere along the way, I realized something. Healthy bodies aren't built living in constant battle. They're built by living in partnership. Think about the word restoration. Not repair, not replacement, restoration. When the old cabinet is restored, the goal isn't to make it into something it was never designed to be. The goal is to uncover what was there all along. Remove the damage, strengthen the foundation, replace what truly cannot function anymore, protect it from future harm, restore it. I think that's a beautiful picture of health. Not becoming someone else, becoming more fully who your body was designed to be. For me, that journey started with one question. What if my diagnosis wasn't the beginning of my story, but the beginning of my education? I didn't know it at the time. I was scared, confused, overwhelmed. The future looked uncertain. But looking back now, multiple sclerosis forced me to ask questions I probably never would have asked otherwise. What actually creates health? Why do some habits leave me feeling stronger while others don't? How does food affect inflammation? Why does sleep change everything? Why do stress and relationships matter so much? What role does movement play? Why does fasting seem to help so many people, including me, yet still make so many others nervous? And honestly, Even myself in the past was terrified of fasting. Those questions became a 20-year journey, a journey that eventually became this YouTube channel, my books, my website, and honestly, a large part of who I am today. Not because I have all the answers, I absolutely don't, but because I never stopped asking better questions. If you followed this channel for a minute, you know that's really what the Fasting Project is about. It's not a challenge, it's not a trend, it's an invitation to become a student of your own body, to become curious again, to stop assuming that feeling poorly is simply the unavoidable cost. No, it is not. Feeling bad, feeling sick, feeling tired, no. I do not accept it as the unavoidable cost of getting older. I just don't. I reject it. To recognize that while aging is inevitable, many of the choices we make each day still influence how we experience those years. Let's recognize that. I'm inviting you to. Do it with me. Let's recognize it together and explore that. Now, one thing I want to be very careful to say, there are people watching this who are living with conditions they did not choose. Genetic diseases, autoimmune diseases, cancer, serious illness, chronic illness. If that's you, please hear my heart. I'm not suggesting at all that illness is your fault. I'm not suggesting that if you just ate differently, fasted longer, or slept more, that everything would disappear. Life is simply not that simple. There are faithful people who still become sick. Healthy people who receive devastating diagnosis. People who make excellent lifestyle choices and still suffer tremendous loss. And it's certainly not a measure of God's love for them. Some of the healthiest individuals I know, there's one in particular, a dear friend of mine. Her name was Becca. We had the same name. And she took better care of herself than anyone I know. She looked amazing. She was beautiful. She was, you'd think she walked out of a magazine, kind of amazing, but it wasn't just on the outside, it was internal. She ate so healthy, did so amazing. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, something, a condition, unexpected, very rare, nothing she could have done different, took her life. She was a daughter of God who was treasured and loved. She was a mother. What I'm saying is this: regardless of our diagnosis, we still have opportunities every single day to create an environment that better supports the incredible bodies that we've been given. That matters, even when it doesn't change everything. Sorry. Even when those who took such good care of themselves still die young. Even when those who were so loved and needed can just be gone like that. We need to remember one of the reasons I encourage people to think differently about food is because food is so much more than calories, my friend. It is more than that. Food is communication. Every meal tells your body something. That doesn't mean every meal has to be perfect. I don't believe perfection is realistic. I don't even think it's healthy. What matters is the overall conversation. Imagine someone judging your entire marriage by one difficult conversation. That wouldn't make sense. The health of a marriage is built over thousands of conversations. The same is true for your body. One healthy meal is not going to create vibrant health. It doesn't. But one unhealthy meal also doesn't destroy it. One workout doesn't transform your life, and one missed workout doesn't ruin it either. It's the direction, it's the consistency, it's the conversation that develops over months, over years, even decades. And that's actually wonderful news, because it means your next choice still matters. Your next breakfast matters. Your next walk matters. Your next bedtime tonight when you go to sleep, it matters. Your next decision to put your phone away 30 minutes earlier matters. Your next fast matters. Not because one choice changes everything, but because every choice becomes another sentence in the overall conversation your body is constantly hearing. This is one of the reasons I encourage people not to chase extremes. Social media often rewards extremes. The longest fast, the hardest workout, the strictest diet, the most dramatic before and after pictures. But your body doesn't need constant drama. It needs consistency. It needs rhythms. It needs habits you can still practice years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now. Because lasting health isn't built during your most motivated week. It's built during ordinary weekdays. The Tuesday when you're tired after work, the Tuesday when you're tempted to give up. Those ordinary moments become extraordinary lives. And honestly, that's one of the greatest hopes I want to leave you with today. You don't have to change everything this afternoon. You just have to start changing the conversation. One decision, one habit, one meal, one walk, one earlier bedtime, one intentional fast, one act of kindness toward yourself. And over weeks and months, those seemingly small choices become the language your body has been waiting to hear. There's another reason I wanted to make this episode. I think we've unintentionally taught an entire generation to stop trusting their own bodies. We've learned to fear hunger. We've learned to fear fat. We've learned to fear cholesterol, sunlight, aging. How ridiculous, right? Aren't we scared to get older? How many of us are scared to get older? What's the alternative? But yet we're scared to age? We've learned to fear being uncomfortable. Now, I'm not saying that every fear is irrational. Some risks are real. Some medical conditions require medications, procedures, or ongoing care, and I'm grateful we have those options. But somewhere along the way, many of us stopped asking one simple question. What was my body designed to do? Because when you understand design, you begin understanding purpose. Your heart was designed to adapt. Your muscles were designed to adapt. Your brain was designed to adapt. Your metabolism was designed to adapt. Even your immune system it's learned to adapt. That's what it was designed to do. The human body isn't just static. It's dynamic. It's constantly responding to the environment around it. That's why changing the environment often changes your biology. Think about how quickly your eyes adjust when you walk into a dark room, or how your skin gradually changes after spending time in the sun, or how your muscles become stronger after weeks of resistance training. Adaptation isn't unusual. It's one of the defining characteristics of life itself. So why would we assume our metabolism is any different? Why would we assume our brain is any different? Why would we assume our immune system is any different? Our bodies are constantly asking, what kind of world am I living in today? Then our bodies respond accordingly. Sometimes disease interrupts it. Sometimes genetics influence it. Sometimes injury changes everything. My son right now, my 13-year-old, is dealing with a broken ankle. It changes things. But adaptation remains one of the body's most remarkable abilities. And I find that incredibly hopeful. That's why he's in a cast, because his broken ankle will adapt if held in a certain, right? It just has to be sustained in a certain style, a certain format, a certain conversation. These bones are supposed to be in such a way. It's not overnight though. He's super frustrated because school starts in 3 weeks and football starts shortly after that, and he's been preparing. And now he has this broken ankle that's going to take some time to rewrite the miscommunication that his bone had when he landed on it and it broke. It has to learn by being in the cast for a period of weeks to realign correctly. Think about it. If our bodies can adapt in one direction, just like his bone can readapt to the correct direction it's supposed to be aligned, then our bodies can often begin adapting just like the bone did. Maybe not overnight, maybe not completely, but direction matters. If they had casted his broken bone incorrectly, it's not gonna work, right? One of the questions I get asked is, Rebecca, where do I start? Tell me what I should do. Should I begin fasting? Should I change my diet? Should I buy supplements? Should I start walking? Should I cut out sugar? Maybe it's gluten, maybe it's dairy, maybe it's... My answer surprises people. I like to say, pay attention. Start paying attention. Before you try to change your body, get to know it. Notice what gives you energy. Notice what steals it. Notice how different meals affect you. Notice how you sleep after a stressful day. Notice what happens when you take a walk after dinner. Notice what happens when you spend time an hour outside instead of an hour scrolling. Notice your mood, your hunger, just your focus. Like, how clear is your brain? Are you dealing with brain fog, and to what extent? Your body has been collecting data about you your entire life. It's time we start collecting some of that data too. I genuinely believe awareness is one of the most underrated health tools that we have. That's why I wrote the Fasting Project. As I was researching, studying, and living these principles over the years, I've realized that people didn't just need another list of fasting schedules. They needed a framework. They needed to understand why their body responds the way it does. Because once you understand the why and the how, it's going to become much less overwhelming. So if today's episode does spark questions you want to explore further, I'd love to invite you to read my book, in the Fasting Project, and it's linked below. And also check out my website, like I mentioned. My goal has never been to convince you to follow me, although you should subscribe, do it. But my goal, my overall goal, is to help you better understand the incredible body that God has entrusted to you. So let's talk about one of the biggest messages that your body sends: hunger. So for years, I thought that hunger meant something was wrong. That if I felt hungry, I needed to fix it immediately. But looking back, I realized I never actually learned what hunger was. I learned to fear it. But hunger isn't automatically an emergency, it's information. Sometimes it means your body genuinely needs nourishment. Sometimes it reflects habit or routine. Sometimes emotions, stress, boredom, or your environmental cues play a role. And learning to tell the difference, it takes practice. And it won't look the same for everyone. We're not the same person. So that shift changed my relationship with food more than any specific diet ever did, because I stopped treating hunger like an alarm clock that had to be silenced instantly. And instead, I started asking, what kind of hunger is this? Is it physical, emotional, social? Am I tired? Am I stressed? Did I simply walk past the break room and smell fresh cookies? Those questions helped me to respond with more intention instead of reacting automatically. And over time, that simple habit became incredibly freeing. What if we approached more of our symptoms that way? Not with fear, not with shame, but with thoughtful curiosity. What if fatigue became a question instead of an accusation? What if cravings became a clue instead of a character flaw? What if brain fog became an invitation to investigate instead of something to simply push through? Those questions don't replace medical care when it's needed, but they can help us to become active participants in our own health instead of just feeling like passive passengers. And I think that that is really where real hope begins. I think one of the saddest things we've accepted as a society is the idea that feeling miserable is just a normal part of getting older. We joke about it. I'm just getting older. Welcome to your 40s. Everything hurts now. My memory isn't what it used to be. I guess this is just life. Now let's be honest. Our bodies do change as we age. That's reality. Muscles change, hormones change, recovery changes, and our nutritional needs change. I'm not suggesting that we can stop the clock. None of us can. But I also don't believe that we should confuse normal with common. Those are two very different things. Just because something is common doesn't automatically mean it's inevitable. That's an important distinction. Because if we've accepted something as unavoidable, we stop looking for ways to improve it. I remember when I first began making changes to my own lifestyle, and people thought I was extreme. Some still do. Why would anyone willingly skip meals? Why eat differently than everyone else? Why spend so much time learning about nutrition? Might as well live life. Why prioritize sleep? You can sleep when you're dead. Why care about morning sunlight? Isn't the sun going to give you cancer? Why go for walks? Don't you have better things to do with your time? Why outside? Haven't you read about the current condition of the air? The truth is, I wasn't just trying to be different. I was trying to understand, because once you've been told that your future may include severe disability, you begin asking different questions than most people ask. You begin wondering, is there anything I can do that might work, that might support the body I've been given? Because I know it's all I've got. Notice the word support, not control, not guarantee, support. That single word has become one of the foundations of my philosophy. We can't control everything, but we can often support a great deal. We can support healthy muscles. We can support good sleep. We can support our cardiovascular health and our mental well-being and our metabolism. We can support healthy eating patterns, meaningful relationships. We can support our spiritual life. Support doesn't promise outcomes, but it does create opportunities, right? That's actually one of the reasons I named my website youareworthithealth.com. You are worth it. Not because I think that perfect health is guaranteed, but because I genuinely believe you're worth taking care of. You're here. God created you. You have a purpose. You're worth taking care of. Sometimes we spend so much time taking care of everyone else that we quietly convince ourselves that we aren't worth the effort anymore. I don't believe that's true. Not for 1 second. You know, one of the things I hear most often is, Rebecca, I don't know where to begin. Maybe you felt that way too. There is so much information online, and one person says eat 6 meals a day, and another says eat 1. One person says never eat carbs, and another says plants are all you need. One expert says breakfast is the most important meal, another says to skip it. It's exhausting. No wonder people give up. That's why I'm doing this, and I want to give you a framework because I think a new way of thinking is deserved, because methods change. Science continues to grow. One individual circumstances are different from another, and even our individual circumstances continue to change with time. But learning how to ask better questions, like that lasts a lifetime. Now, if you decide to read my book, my hope isn't that you memorize every chapter. It's that you begin looking at your own body with fresh eyes. Not fear, not frustration, but curiosity. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you thanked your body? That might sound like a weird question, especially if you're hurting and especially if you're living with illness, especially if you're disappointed what your body can't do anymore. But think about everything your body has done for you today. Your heart has continued beating over 100,000 times without asking permission. You've taken thousands of breaths. Your brain has coordinated trillions of cellular processes, and your liver has worked around the clock. Your kidneys are filtering your blood. Your immune system is standing guard every second. Your bones have carried you. They haven't jumped out of your body and walked off. Your eyes have allowed you to see this video. Your ears have allowed you, hopefully, to listen to this. If not, then maybe you're obviously, well, you're not typing it, but I mean, you might be reading. The point is, your body has been working tirelessly, even on the days you've been frustrated with it. Now, that doesn't erase suffering. I'm not saying it does, but it can change perspective. I think gratitude is one of the most overlooked forms of health. Not because gratitude cures diseases, it doesn't, but just because gratitude changes the environment of our minds, and our mind influences our behavior. People who begin appreciating their bodies often begin caring for them differently. Not out of punishment, but out of respect. There's a big difference between exercising because you hate your body and exercising because you're grateful for it. There's a difference between eating nourishing food because you're ashamed of how you're and eating nourishing food because you're grateful. One mindset tends to create exhaustion. The other creates consistency, hopefully. And consistency, more than intensity, is what changes lives. So, I want to ask you a question. What conversation have you been having with your body today? Has it been one of criticism, of disappointment, of frustration? Or has it been one of curiosity, patience, grace, learning, hope? Because your body has been speaking to you since the day you were born. Maybe, just maybe, today is the day that you begin listening differently. I want to leave you with one final picture. Imagine you're driving down a highway. You're enjoying the scenery. The windows are down, your favorite music is playing, everything feels normal, and then suddenly, A small red light appears on the dashboard. Now imagine responding by grabbing a piece of black electrical tape. You cover the light. Perfect, problem solved. Except nothing was solved. The light wasn't the problem. The light was trying to protect you. It was telling you to look deeper, check your engine. Fatigue can be a dashboard light. Brain fog can be a dashboard light. Persistent hunger can be a dashboard light. Poor sleep, chronic stress, inflammation, pain, weight gain. Again, those dashboard lights can represent many different conditions. Sometimes they're simple, sometimes they're serious. That's why persistent symptoms deserve evaluation, like I said. But here's the question. When the light comes on, do we become curious, or do we simply look for a piece of tape? For years, I looked for tape. I wanted the symptoms gone. I wanted life to be easy again. I wanted to stop thinking about my health. But my diagnosis changed that forever. It forced me to become a student, and looking back, I'm grateful. Not grateful that I have multiple sclerosis. I would never wish that on anyone. But grateful that it taught me to ask questions I otherwise may never have even thought of. Questions that completely changed the direction of my life. Questions that eventually led me to become a health coach, to write books, to build You Are Worth It Health, and to sit here today having this conversation with you. Sometimes those questions we never wanted to ask become the questions that change our lives. If you've made it this far into today's episode, I want you to know something. I don't expect you to remember every study, every biological pathway we discuss, or all the ideas that we talk about. That's not the goal. My hope, it's so much simpler than that. I hope tomorrow morning when you wake up that you'll pause, my friend. Just pause for a moment. Before you reach for your phone, before you rush through your day, before saying you don't have the time, I want you to ask one question. What is my body trying to tell me today? What is my body telling me? Maybe the answer is more sleep. Maybe it's I've been carrying too much stress. Maybe it's I need to move more, or I need to rest more, or I need more real food, or I need more protein, or I need to spend time outside. I need to slow down. I need to stop treating every feeling of hunger like it's an emergency. What if the answer is to listen? Not with fear, not with shame, but with curiosity. I truly believe one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves is becoming fluent in the language of our own body. Because once you understand the language, the decisions become clearer. Not easier, clearer. You begin realizing that health isn't built in one perfect day. It's just not. It's built by thousands of ordinary choices. One breakfast, one walk, one moment of choosing water instead of an energy drink because you got a good night's sleep the night before, because you had a healthy dinner at a good time. And then when you do break your 18-hour, it feeds into each other. It really does. None of these one individual things seem dramatic by themselves, but together they begin telling your body a very different story about what your environment is and who you are. You know, I often think about something my grandmother's generation understood better than ours. They didn't spend every day chasing the newest health trend. They built rhythms. They cooked. They gathered around the table. They walked. They worked with their hands. They slept when it got dark, and they lived closer to just the natural rhythms of life. Were they perfect? Of course not. But I think there's wisdom in remembering that our bodies evolved with those rhythms, not constant stimulation. Maybe restoration isn't always about adding something new. Maybe sometimes it's about remembering something old. As we close today, I want to remind you that you don't have to change your entire life by tomorrow morning. Please don't leave this episode feeling overwhelmed. Leave encouraged. Choose one thing, one habit, one conversation, one meal, one walk, one bedtime this week, one fast, one step toward the person you hope to become. Then repeat it, because consistency has a way of quietly transforming lives. I'll see you in the next one.